Hi boys and girls, it's Miss Linza here from Waxpool, and today I'm going to teach you one way to become better readers. So boys and girls, when you're reading a story, there's so many different parts to think about, and it's so exciting. But one thing I like to think about are who the characters are in the story and what the setting is. And the setting has two different parts. The setting is where the story takes place and when the story takes place. So for example, I would say my setting right now is outside on my deck where it takes place, and when it takes place is in the morning. So let's practice with a storybook. This is one of my favorite storybooks and we read it in class together. It's called Where the Wild Things Are. So as we're reading this story, I want you guys to think about who is in the story, what the characters are, and where and when the story takes place, what the setting is. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew and grew and grew until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through night and day. And in and out of weeks, and almost over a year, to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars, and gnashed their terrible teeth, and rolled their terrible eyes, and showed their terrible claws. Till Max said, "Be still," and tamed them with a magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all. So boys and girls, I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to pause and think about some of the different story parts. So the first question I'm going to ask myself is, what are the characters in the story? And when I say, what are the characters in the story, that makes me think, who is in the story? So who is in the story? Let me go back to my story and let me see who I see. I see two main groups of characters. I see Max, the little boy, and I see all these scary wild things. So to help me remember, I'm going to draw a picture of Max and a picture of the wild things. Now, you boys and girls may do anything you want to help you remember the characters. You guys may draw, you may write, or you may act it out. So, right here, I have Max, and I'm going to write M-A-X for Max. And right here I have the wild things. And those are my two main groups of characters. So next, as I'm finishing this story, I'm going to think about the setting. I'm going to think about where the story takes place and when it takes place. Let's keep going. And made them king of all wild things. And now, cried Max, let the wild rumpus start. Ooh, and let me pause right here, boys and girls. Right here I see the moon. That makes me think that the setting, one part of the setting is when it takes place. I think this story takes place at night. "Now stop," Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely and wanted to be where someone loved him best of all. Then around from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to pause one more time, and I'm going to go back to the setting. And I'm going to be thinking, where does this story take place? And as I read the story, I think it takes place in two special parts. The beginning of the story, we start at Max's house. Just a regular house. But just a regular Max's house? But does he stay at Max's house? No, he doesn't. He travels to a far away land over an ocean, and he arrives at a very magical place where the wild things are. And it doesn't have a name, but it seems kind of imaginary to me and kind of special and kind of scary. So I don't know if I'd like to go to where the wild things are, but I know Max did. So where does our story take place? It starts off at Max's home, and then Max travels over the ocean, and he lands at where the wild things are. All right, let's finish reading. Then all around from far away across the world, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth. They rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. And sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day. Boys and girls, I'm going to pause one last time. I'm going to answer the last question I have. And the last question I have is a setting question. And it says, when did this story take place? So that's kind of a tricky one because we don't know exactly. But I'm going to use my best guess to think when this story takes place. It takes place during two times. During daytime, so I'm going to draw a sun, and during nighttime, so I'm going to draw a moon. And it also takes place, when I read it, I think it takes place right now. It doesn't really seem like it's too far in the future, and it doesn't really seem like it's too far in the past. So that is called present day. So I'm going to write those words, present day. So I have all my story parts that we're learning this week to help me become a better reader. I know the characters in the story are Max and the wild thing. I know the setting of the story is where and when the story takes place. All right, let's finish reading our story. And sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day and into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. And it was still hot. The end. Okay, boys and girls, I loved reading that story to you, and now it's your turn. So on your own, I'd like you guys to please go grab your favorite story and tell me the characters and the setting. You can tell your family, and then please tell your teacher. Okay, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.